So I've actually avoided as much as possible talking about politics on my main channel. I can count on one hand the number of videos that I can specifically say I really got objectively political on. And the funny thing is, I've had people stop following me because they ran into those videos and said, I liked your channel until it got political. And I'm like, it never really got political. Those are like 2 years old. Whatever. There was actually one guy, I'm not making this up, his name was AR-15 Nut. He saw, I did a video when Trump was elected that was simply my thoughts on the whole thing, and I was in shock like everybody else was, including Donald Trump. And there was one that I did, or a few that I did on gun control way back in the day. So this guy runs into those, gets all triggered, pun intended, and cancels or unsubscribes, does it really loudly in the comments. And then I guess he kept seeing my videos being recommended to him and assumed that I was doing that on purpose. I was somehow like following him around and like I got nothing else in the world to do right now but to just follow this one guy around who hates me because I said one thing he doesn't like. But all that is to say, that's on the other channel. Who knows, I might eventually get to the point where I talk about politics again on there. I do get asked about it from time to time, but for now anyway, this is where I have to talk about that. So if you're following this channel and you just absolutely don't want to see anything about politics, well, you know, I'm going to talk about it every once in a while because it's in the news and it's in the world, and that's what this channel is for. It's for me to talk about things that I don't really want to put on the other channel for various reasons. So with all that in mind, like the reason why I wanted to talk about this was I read a book recently. It's a very small book. It's called On Tyranny from Timothy Snider, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century. And I mean, it's really small. It's like, how many pages is this? Not even 100? No, it's 120 or so pages. And what he basically does is he goes back and he looks at all the tyrannical regimes that came about, you know, including, you know, the Nazis and fascists and stuff in World War II and all that, but in other parts of the world as well. And he looks at the contributing factors and the way those regimes came to power. And the big overarching lesson that I got reading this is every tyrannical regime sprung out of a democratic society that thought it could never happen to them. And I know it may sound a bit hyperbolic to say that we're seeing the seeds of that being planted here in the United States and that we should be worried that it's going to become a totalitarian regime here in the United States. When you say things like that, people always, oh, come on, you know, right? But again, every place this has ever happened to thought the exact same thing. And we love in the United States to think that we are exceptional, American exceptionalism. You know, we're the only people this won't happen to. And we'll see. I mean, I certainly hope not. I think that our system of government was brilliantly established by the Founding Fathers with institutions and fail-safes to prevent something like this from happening. But that doesn't mean it can't happen. And so the point is, I really did enjoy this book. I bought it this summer, and then it literally was in a bag, and I'd forgotten about it. I was on a vacation when I bought it, and I just totally forgot it was in my bag, and then I finally got around to reading it. There's some scary stuff in there. One of the things that stands out the most was the way every totalitarian regime, when they come into power, the first thing that they try to do is to disenfranchise the media. Because, of course, they want to control the narrative, and, of course, they don't want anything bad being said about them. And so now the current administration is in there, and what's the word you keep hearing? Every time there's something they don't like, fake news. Fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news. I hate the term fake news. I know it's like, what is it, Godwin's Law? Like the first person to call the other person a Nazi loses. But you know what? There are some things that the Nazis did that we have to look out for, and we can't let that happen again. And one of the first things they did when the brown shirts, you know, came into power was they used the term Lügenpresse, which means lying press. Fake news. It's the exact same thing. In fact, in some of those, you know, neo-Nazi marches like were going on in Charleston, they were chanting Lügenpresse. They were chanting Nazi slogans, which meant lying press. The fake news thing bothers me more than just politically, honestly. I mean, as somebody who has a YouTube channel who talks about space and science and stuff like that, the science deniers that I get on there, the flat earthers, the people who call SpaceX fake X and think that they're part of this global conspiracy, you know, that is to me the biggest problem in the world right now, honestly. People talk about climate change, they talk about war and all that kind of stuff. I think it's this fake news mentality. This idea that anything is untrue if it's something that you don't want it to be true. Like, because I believe this is not true, that means it's not true. Whenever I hear people say, Google it, when they make a point, I heard this actually a lot during the election. People would say something and say, Google it, Google it. Googling something doesn't prove that it's true. It just means that it's on the internet. Google is not a fact checker. It's just a compendium of all the things on the internet. When you say Google it to try to prove your point, what you're basically saying is that you believe everything you see on the internet, which means you're an idiot. You know, as wonderful as the internet is, and as wonderful, well, in certain ways, as social media has been, look, YouTube is a social media platform, and I have actually been able to make a career on this, so I can't hate it too much. But the fact of the matter is, you can search YouTube and find support for any crazy theory out there. And people seem to think like, well, somebody else out there thinks this, then it must be true. I think it too. There's a corroborating evidence. No, it just means that there's two crazy people out there. Our media has fractured to the point that anybody can have any facts that they want. And the reason why I think that's a bigger problem than, say, climate change and all these other things is that we can solve climate change. We can solve any of the crises, the food crisis, the water crisis, whatever they might be. We can solve those things if we just work together. But we can't work together if we aren't on the same page and we don't have the same facts in front of us. And we don't. And we're going further in the opposite direction than the direction we should be going in. That's what scares me. And that's why I hate the whole fake news thing. And that's why I am opposed to the way this administration is handling itself. There's a lot of things to complain about with Donald Trump, and everybody does. But to me, that's the worst aspect of it. To just completely say the media is not real. What I say is real. That's totalitarianism 101. And it's happened over and over and over again in places around the world that they thought it could never happen to them. That's my political rant for today. I want everybody, I think that there's a period of human history where we've kind of gotten access to this new technological informational power, and eventually we will find our way through it and find a way to be more media savvy. But as I've said before in other videos, it's going to be a rough transition. And I'm not looking forward to that. But anyway, more positive things in the future. Just that was my topic for the day. That's been too much information. Catch you later.